2002, an organization in Marin County called the Marin Cancer Project, Search for the Cause. And the reason it was started is I went to a meeting with the leadership in our community and the Department of Health Services in the Northern California Cancer Center and heard that our breast cancer rates had risen 60% in 8 years. So we organized in 2002 a door-to-door campaign to really raise the roof around what was going on here. And one of the things that struck me most on that day was the incredible energy of the teenagers that helped walk door to door and spent 12 hours on a Saturday doing something in their community that would make a difference in their lives. So we formed in 2005 a little tiny organization called Teens for Safe Cosmetics. And basically we gather around a table and we brainstorm ideas and we brainstorm ways that these guys can have an impact on their broader community. And they are the most amazing, brilliant, young women I have ever worked with in my life, and there's nothing they can't do.
It starts with what you're actually placing on your skin, and we have the power to change that, so why not do it?
Regardless of the products you're using, I feel like as consumers, we have a right to know what we're being exposed to. And as a campaign, we're not here to bash on the companies that are using toxic ingredients. We're here to say, well, as a consumer, you have the right to know the chemicals that are in your products, and whether you want to use those products or not, you just have a right to the information.
What really makes me love this campaign so much is when someone who I had spoken to comes up to me, maybe a week or a month later, I see them, and they just tell me that because of what they heard me say, they went home and changed what they used.
And I hope that by the end of this summit this weekend, you guys all feel just as empowered as I did when I first became involved in the campaign, and that you realize the feeling that you get when you realize you're accomplishing something and that you're really making a positive change. It's, I think, the best feeling that you can have.
We know that infertility is going up. We know that endometriosis is a bigger problem than it used to be. We know that that learning disabilities, well, we don't have exact numbers because we don't count it the same way we used to count it. Autism and learning disabilities are almost for sure bigger problems than they used to be.
There's been studies that have shown that there are correlations between the amount of these toxic chemicals that accumulate in, let's say, the mammary gland, and its correlation to the risk of breast cancer.
So there's animal studies showing you exposed during puberty, you get a much higher risk of breast cancer when you're an adult than if you expose the animal, even when it's a little baby or when it's an adult.
And it's not an accident you don't know. It's not because you don't understand, you're not a chemist, and you don't know how to read a label or something like that. That's not why you don't know. You don't know because very conscious decisions were made every step of the way to keep that information away from you.
What we have right now is we live in a society where we are overexposed to a whole set of chemicals, but there's no regulations either at the state or at the federal level that really help us to reduce that exposure.
The Teens Safe Cosmetics lobbied in Sacramento to impact the passage of both the Safe Cosmetics Act and the Toxic Toys Bill. Both bills, against all odds, were signed into law. How do you think that the wisdom, vitality, and passions of the teens changed the stakes, and how is it important that the teens got involved to impact the legislation?
When we see a bunch of highly motivated teenagers and their parents, and they have to listen. You turn that meeting down at your peril. You will be shamed if you don't meet with those teens. So you have a lot of power, and I'm glad that you're flexing your muscles because it does help.
So the power that you all have, and especially as young people and young adults, to make change and to influence the future around what you buy and where you spend your money and what you talk about and what you talk about with your friends and what you talk about with your family and how you change your life affects everything that's going to happen in the future.
You have two choices. You can either buy something from someone who maybe isn't taking your health or the health of the environment into consideration, or you can support farmers and you can support manufacturers that are considering you and are considering the health of your children, our children, the planet.
I was speaking to the saleswoman, and she was French, and she gave me what she thought was the best thing for my skin, which was a mixture of almond oil and carrot seed oil. And, you know, she was just showing me, you just mix it in the palm of your hand and you put it on your face. And I was like, how simple, how beautiful.
If you use the traditional process, it does not need the use of high chemicals or manufacturing per se. It's all mostly hand done, or what you may call manpower.
It's easy to make our decisions for the ingredients. We want organic and fairly traded ingredients. And the tough part is sourcing. And so we have had the task over the last couple of years of creating our sources, pulling cooperatives together so that we can provide those.
I moved from Cambodia to Boulder and started making soap in my garage with the concept that we would grow a company that was producing enough ingredients to actually start our own farms that were women-owned in developing countries.
We're going to do some product testing, and we have a green spa so everybody gets to get gorgeous and green.
I'm not graceful all the time.
Talking about toxics in cosmetics and personal care products is actually a really wonderful way of sort of talking about the broader issues of toxic chemicals in general. There's stuff that we're putting in our body every day. Or we're in the decade of really changing the environment, so I think the awareness is higher, and people like you guys, the Teens for Safe Cosmetic, are bringing awareness, and I think that's really starting to push awareness at all levels.
Once you start choosing these products, which work well, your whole life becomes filled with more than what's on the flat screen TV or what's in the magazine. You become more connected to the whole story.
And what is this? It's ultimately about changing the world. There is so much work to do.
I'll go great.